Travels with Donnie back again, and I realized this morning that I have not done a mental health video in quite some time. And for those of you that don't know, I'm retired. I retired as being a mental health clinician, mental health therapist, counselor, psychotherapist. Anyway, I was a licensed professional counselor, and I still practice very, very part-time. Just a few sessions a week online, and so I still have my toe in that pond, and because I enjoy it so much. So I do mental health videos, and you know what? I was thinking about, there's so much in the media about mental health and how important mental health is, and it's Mental Health Week, it's Mental Health Day, Mental Health Month, and it's like, what does that mean, mental health? Does it mean, some people think, well, it doesn't apply to me because I don't have a mental health diagnosis, I don't take medications, I don't take a therapist, so mental health is not something that applies to me. Wrong. It applies to every human being. It even applies to animals, dogs, maybe cats. I'll talk to George about that, but I'm not sure about cats, but definitely dogs. Mental health is basically, it's all about how you feel, how you experience your emotions on a day-to-day basis. We all, there's symptoms that when you put them together can qualify you for a mental health disorder, but most of these symptoms are things individually that without a mental health diagnosis that we feel naturally as human beings. Depression is sadness. You ever feel sad? Of course you do. Anxiety. There's generalized anxiety disorder, but you may not qualify for that, but do you ever feel anxious? Of course you do. So this video is about these natural feelings I guess there was an accident and I ran over a piece of plastic from the accident. That's what that noise was, and I take it that nothing has happened to my truck. Everything feels normal. Everyone has these emotions, and so the question is, do we just need to accept it? Sometimes we're going to feel sad, sometimes we're going to feel anxious, and the answer to that question is yes, and the answer to the question is also no. All right, we found a stop sign. So yes and no. And yes, it's a natural part of living, and trying to avoid negative feelings can have pretty disastrous results. It's important to feel the negative emotions as much as we feel the ones that we call positive emotions, right? It's part of being human. However, there are times where we have unnecessary sadness, unnecessary anxiety, and even unnecessary anger, which is, by the way, very related to anxiety. Anxiety and anger are closely related because at their root, the cause is fear. What do I mean by fear? I mean, fear is that something that you have is going to be taken from you, or something you're going to be prevented from something that you want in the future. That's fear. So anyway, what do I mean by experiencing unnecessary fear, unnecessary anxiety? Let me explain what I mean. Once you understand it, this is pretty simple. So a mistaken thinking that people make, myself included for many, many years, was this idea that things happen in the world and we react emotionally to that thing that happens in the world. It kind of makes sense. Bad things happen, I feel bad. Something bad happened, I feel bad. And I believed that for a long time. And I discovered in in particular when I became a therapist and started studying cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the modality that I use, and it has to do with how we think about things and how that affects our emotions. So I found out that way of thinking was wrong. There is zero emotion attached to any event that happens in the universe. Zero. What happens is things occur, we observe them, then there was a missing step. The missing step is we think about that thing and we give them meaning. We figure out what it means. And the meaning that we create in our own brain is what we emotionally react to. And that makes perfect sense. And then you might say, well, Rob, why does that matter? And what does that have to do with unnecessary? I'll call this unnecessary emotional suffering, and then I'll shorten it to say unnecessary suffering, which is going to mean having negative emotions when you could have avoided them. Because the meaning making that we create as human beings is often inaccurate. And think about that. If something happens in the world and we have an inaccurate interpretation, how valid really is our emotional reaction going to be? And I'm about to prove that to you. Let's say you were told, hey, I've got bad news. Your father died yesterday. So you're going to take in that information and you're going to create meaning, right? I'm never going to see my dad again. You're going to be devastated. You're going to have an intense emotional reaction of grief and sadness, maybe anger, all of it, right? It's going to feel horrible because of what that means to you. Then the person comes back and says, you know what? We have to apologize. The man that died had the same name and date of birth as your father, but it wasn't your father. Your father's fine. He's right here. And your father walks on. What happens to those intense emotions? They evaporate immediately. But the thing that happened in the universe did not change. It did not change. A man died, right? The interpretation, mostly on the part of the person that gave the information and your interpretation of that, it was all wrong for various reasons. But we were able to reverse the suffering. Immediately, it went away. And it could have been prevented if someone said, your dad died yesterday. He's like, okay, wait, who are you and where did you get your information from? And you sort of check things out. You ask questions. You're curious. You want to make sure. And you might have found out, hey, thanks for the info, but that's not my dad you're talking about. That's somebody else. And I could have avoided unnecessary suffering. And this plays out in your life every single day. You observe things, people say things, people do things, and you figure out what that means. And sometimes my feelings get hurt, or I get angry, or I get happy, and I recognized that despite being an intelligent man, I wasn't at 100% with my interpretations or my meaning making in life. So the first thing that I do when I get like a reaction like, oh, that's bad, or that person doesn't like me, or that person hates me, or they're angry at me, or I'm embarrassed, or I feel shame, or any of that stuff, I try to stop myself and I try to check out, okay, what happened? What do I think it means? And do I have enough information to come to my conclusions? And can I get more information before I make a commitment to my belief about what's happened? So you can avoid unnecessary suffering by questioning your meaning making. So you don't have to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety or see a psychiatrist to use this information to make your mental health healthier, right? The more you can avoid these, negative emotions aren't bad, right? They're negative because they don't make you not feel good. It's upsetting, right? But there's something these negative emotions do that's harmful to you, even though they're a necessary thing that happens. Anxiety, in particular, can be something that creates havoc physically in the body. It creates stress. And stress has a profound effect on, I think, every organ in the body, but in particular the cardiovascular system. The more stress that you're under, the more potential long-term damage is done to your cardiovascular system. And you don't live as long, right? And sometimes the quality of your life is you end up with, congestive heart failure or something like that. You're living, but your quality of life really suffers. So that's why this stuff is super, super important, and why I did this mental health video today while I was out taking a drive. And I hope you got something out of it. If I helped one person with this information, then I'm a pretty happy guy. Take care.